How much did our argument against the Clippers drive you to ultimately lead the Warriors?
Draymond Green took my position, I wasn't chosen. Kevin Durant sacrificed it all because we gotta win. Say I couldn't do it, watch me do it again. Okay, yeah.
Kenny, what's up, man? I appreciate you coming on. It's my show, Chips. Obviously, it stems from exploring that chip on your shoulder, what drives us and makes us who we are and why we're here today. So thank you.
No doubt, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
So take me on the journey. Coach Brown, your first coach. How was that and what did he teach you?
He taught me the fundamentals. I mean, it felt like fundamentals of the game, but it was like truly fundamentals of life. What it's going to take for me to survive as a human being, a maturing human being. He put this game in front of me, told me the fundamentals of it, the balance of the game, the history of it. I just started to understand that for one, but also started to see life a little bit clearer too. It was one of those special times in my life that I always revert back to, you know.
You hear the cliche saying of everything you do at game speed. To me, that is the most cliche statement in the world.
Yeah.
Except for when it comes to you, you actually do every rep game speed. Does that come from him or does that come from somewhere else?
Yeah, he built the foundation. And the cliche stuff, I mean, I am cliche. I'm simple, I'm efficient, I'm to the point. That's what my game is. And a lot of the best stuff to me is cliche. So I just tried to approach every workout like a game, every game like a workout.
And then you go to high school and you went to several different high schools.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that then? And looking back on that, how do you feel about it now?
So back then, I didn't know it was any different. I was listening to my Coach Brown, my mom, my pops. Like, this was where the best competition was, so I would switch schools every year to move up a level.
People have tried to make that connection of you being at several different high schools to now you being on 3 different teams. What do you say to that or those people?
Yeah, I mean, I feel as though at each spot, even in high school, my game was growing so fast. I need to be in a different environment to see how farther I can go.
And why Texas? In my opinion, Texas is a football school.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a football state, but underneath all of that is some incredible athletes on the basketball side. It was just a perfect situation, and then being in Austin, it was like, you know, the city itself, you know, it wasn't a normal college town. It was like being in a major city, so it was perfect for me.
I know growing up in Saginaw, for me, being the tallest kid, everybody always wanted me to play center. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate enough to have my uncle who just taught me how to dribble and taught me guard skills, but I still always end up throwing at the center, whereas you're 7 feet. You'll never admit it, but you're 7 feet. You never played the 4 in your life till you came to Golden State, really. And
I played a little bit in college because I couldn't dribble that well, but I was still on the perimeter most of the time.
And when we went small, that's when you would play the 4. Whose idea was it, like, to never just stick you on the block because you were always taller than everybody?
Coach Brown and Coach Chucky, like, they would see me every day just running up and down the court, like no ball in my hand, just running around with kids. And they seen my agility outside, running, playing football and stuff, so they seen that I wasn't just a stiff. So
you calling me a stiff, all right, bet.
I mean, no, you ain't no stiff, dog. And you're not even big, bro. You're like 6'6", like, and you play bigger than what you really are. But most guys that's tall and skinny, they can't really move at the same time. And, you know, I always wanted to be a point guard and shooting guard. I was just growing so fast. So some coaches did just stick me underneath the basket. But if I get a rebound, I go coast to coast. You know what I'm saying? If I shoot a jump shot here and there. So I was showing flashes, but it wasn't like this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I developed this over time.
I remember reading a statement where you said, I'm tired of being number 2. I was the number 2 pick. I was the number 2 player in the country. Where was that coming from? Like, and why did you feel that? Like,
yeah, because we had just lost in the finals. And I felt like we was right there every game. And people was like, man, good job. Man, y'all did great. Like, you guys are young, y'all be right back. And I was like, I don't care about that. I wanted to win that series and I want to win a championship. And that's where that came from. I was just, people wanted me to accept being second so much. That was never my mentality ever, always to win the game. And, you know, I appreciated people like respecting my game, but I was like, I wanted more for myself. And at that point, that's how I was feeling.
first 9 years in OKC, and then you decide that you leave in OKC, and you ultimately decide to come to the Warriors, knowing that the scrutiny would be there, knowing that, you know, everybody would say the Warriors were this great team, but you still ultimately made the decision. Why was that? Was that driven by, I don't give a fuck what y'all think, this is good for me? Or was that just, you know, was it strictly just a basketball decision?
It was a basketball decision, but I knocked down the, like, not giving a fuck ladder with that too. You know what I'm saying? It kind of knocked down two birds with one stone with that. But it was mainly, I felt like I was the absolute perfect fit with what you guys were doing on both ends of the ball. And I knew my game had reached a point where I needed to really see what that looked like. And I thought that was just a no-brainer. I would do that shit a million times. And, you know, again, I didn't second guess at all. And I knew that's what I wanted to do when I was going into these meetings. But I really just had to confirm, go through the process. But like, I knew from watching the games, just looking at interviews, just seeing everything that y'all about, it's like, that's the way I wanted to play, and that's the way I need to go to, you know, continue to keep getting better as a player. So once I tunnel vision on that, I knew everything would come afterwards, and it was just me going through that experience and see how I was going to deal with it. And shit, it went perfect.
You then do 3 years there, 2 championships, would have been 3 had you not got hurt.
Easily.
But in my opinion, after year 2, you were over it. You were done with it, and you were on to the next thing. But we had the opportunity to three-peat. And in my mind, what brought you back to Golden State for year 3 was just the opportunity to three-peat, but it didn't feel right for you no more. Am I right, wrong?
That's interesting because a lot of people, that's just a talk around me the last few years, and I get what people are saying because before I got to Golden State, I was just happy-go-lucky, like just bright-eyed to the experience, not knowing what was ahead. By the first year, I knew exactly what we needed to do in order for us to win every night. I knew what my role was to the T. Teams before, I didn't quite know what my role was every night. Did I have to be the scorer? Did I have to be the facilitator? Did I have to get other guys involved? Did I have to make threes? I knew exactly what my role was, and I locked on it with so much focus and determination to not fuck around every day. And you've seen it. From workouts to practices, shoot-arounds, film, I was super locked in, and it made people on the outside look at me like, hold on, is he enjoying this? When I dive into something like that, with that level of focus, I don't want to be anywhere else in life. That's the most enjoyable experience I ever had after that first one. If that was the case, I wouldn't have played 78 games that year. I would have just waited to the end of the season and tried to play in the playoffs. I played every game. I went hard every day. I cared about every matchup, no matter who was on the floor. Just my look didn't feel as like energetic or opening as it was before. And I like that. I like that I was closed off and focused on my work. I just maybe should have communicated that with more people who were interested in knowing what I was going through, but I had the most fun locking in and completing the task. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew we was going to win every night. And it's rare to get to that point as an NBA player, knowing you're going to win every night. So I just try to focus in and stay in the moment more than anything.
And for my own personal sanity, because I've been getting my ass kicked ever since you left. So just for my own personal sanity, how much did our argument against the Clippers drive you to ultimately lead the Warriors?
It wasn't the argument, it was the way that everybody, Steve Kerr act like it didn't happen, Bob Myers and tried to just discipline you and think that that would put the mask over everything. I really felt like that was such a big situation for us as a group. The first time we went through something like that, we had to get that shit all out. I remember watching The Last Dance, and when Scotty didn't go into the game, the whole team in the locker room said, Scotty, that was fucked up that you did that. We needed that. We just needed to throw all of that shit out on the table and say, yo, Dre, K, like, that was fucked up that we even had to go through that. Let's just wipe our hands with that and go finish the task. I don't think we did that, and we tried to dance around it. I just didn't like how all of that, just the vibe between all of that, it just made shit weird to me. And I'd rather us be who we say we are, family first. Communication is key. Like, we didn't show that, and that's what rubbed me the wrong way more than anything.
When we landed back from LA, I sat in Hazel was sitting in the car for an hour and 45 minutes. They pulled me in that room at Signature for an hour and 45 minutes, and they tried to tell me, you need to apologize. And I told them, I'll talk to Kay, but y'all aren't going to tell me what I need to say. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they went on for an hour and 45 minutes saying a bunch of bullshit. And ultimately, they realized, all right, we're not getting through to him. We're going to try again in the morning. And so we met the next morning, and they said, all right, you slept on it. You ready to apologize? And I told them right then and there, I said, y'all about to fuck this up. I said, the only person that can make this right is me and Kay. And there's nothing that y'all can do, and y'all are going to fuck this up. And in my opinion, they fucked it up.
I think so too.
And they told me right then and there, like, we're going to suspend you for this game. I laughed in their face, literally laughed in their face. And Bob said to me, he said, wow, that was not the reaction I was looking for or expecting. And I said, well, either I'm gonna laugh in your face or I'm gonna cuss you the fuck out. So you pick, I'm gonna choose laugh. So I think what you're doing is funny, and so I'm gonna laugh. And so it's interesting to hear you say essentially the same thing that I told them that day. But, you know, and moving past that, kind of along those same lines, you've now played with Russ, who I think has an incredible chip on his shoulder that sometimes goes too far. Mm-hmm. Myself, who has a chip on my shoulder that sometimes goes too far. Kyrie, who has a chip on his shoulder that sometimes goes too far. And James, who has a chip on his shoulder that probably sometimes goes too far. And playing with all the guys that you play with, that you could say, he probably go way too far.
We all go too far, bro, and we all got major chips on our shoulders. There's a million of us. Imagine a million people trying to run into this door right now. Somebody gonna get elbowed, kicked, pushed over. Like, we all trying to fit into a one-peg spot. 100 millions of us trying to fit into these 12, 15 spots on teams. So we gotta have that chip on our shoulder, and I always appreciate the people that acknowledge that it's tough to make it to the league. And I had to kick a lot of motherfuckers down to get here. I had to shun a lot of my friends and sacrifice a lot of the personal shit that I loved as a kid so I can get here. So we all of us naturally are underdogs, got chips on our shoulders because it's hard to make it to this point. But the person that went too far was always Draymond Green. I mean, to the point where I felt like you were trying to establish that you're not playing around. Like, you're not gonna walk over me, even though I was a second-round pick and I'm undersized and I'm not as skilled as y'all want me to be, or I don't play the way y'all traditionally like for people my size to play. I felt that same way about Russell Westbrook because of his story. I felt that same way about James Harden because I know his story from, like, when these dudes was kids, what they had to go through as everyday people, not just on the court. It's hard to make it through life every day, you know what I'm saying, where some of these people come from, you know? So I started understanding that about people. I'm realizing, like, now I see why they show their ego, they show the pride that they have, they show the chip that they have on their shoulder, because it's hard as shit to make it every day, you know what I'm saying? But you pushed it to the limit where it's like, it's cool for me to be who I am and be and not apologize for it all the time. Because you know what I mean, you ain't mean no harm to anybody, but shit that you want it done, you want it done. And we all respected that. And we all kind of looked up to that as guys that come into the league and want to fit into this system so bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, wanting to be a part of this whole thing. Then you realize you see dudes who just going by their own little pace, and it's like, oh, that's more so of my rhythm. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the guys that I play with, from Russ to James to Kai to Steph to Clay, they all kind of move at the beat of their own drum. That encourages a lot of people to do the same shit, not just basketball players, but people in general who just watch us. Dealing with everybody every single day, I start thinking like that, and I start seeing the beauty in all of this shit.